Black Myth Zhong Kui just got an official 15 minutes of brand new gameplay, and here's how it's different than Wukong while still retaining that game science DNA. From controlling demons in combat to complete new gameplay mechanics, here are 12 new details you should probably know, so let's jump right in. Let's start with gameplay mechanics because there are quite a few new extras that are at play, and I can't help but notice the increased number of animations for everything when it comes to interacting with the environment and your enemies. From the way weapons connect all the way to how you interact via dodges and parries. I mean, just take a look at this really awesome new parry ability that our characters can perform. Against this target, we can spin their weapons and then redirect it to our right or left, which opens them up for a lot of incoming attacks. It seems that this is both possible on regular foes, but also on bosses, with different types of animations playing depending on the type of weapons we clash against. This is going to open up a level of strategy that we didn't have before, so I'm all up for that. The level of detail over here for now is absolutely incredible. Keep in mind that this is all in-game footage, by the way. It also seems it's possible to grapple and even stab and push targets with a special unique attack. It's either an attack or some kind of finishing move, but it seems that it's lasting quite a bit. It kind of reminds me a bit of a similar attack we had in Ghost of Tsushima. So yeah, definitely open up to that. And there's also the second one right here, although I think that this is pretty much a finisher move rather than a whole grapple in and of itself. There are also similarities with the previous Wukong, by the way. The after image is back when you perform a perfect dodge. You already have that very familiar sound effect if you remember it from the first game. Yeah, pretty much that one. It's the type of sound effect that you can almost never forget. It seems that it's back, part of the gameplay, and so is with the perfect parries and the perfect dodges. And speaking of cool new abilities, here are a few that our enemies can also use against us, but also some of the new abilities we can use against them that incorporate perfect parries and perfect dodges in the mix. So we can see that one of the stronger foes over here can set its sword on fire before performing a very strong slash attack. But at the same time, our character here is charging its own attack using the focus meter, which unleashes at the same time clashing with that enemy sword, and the result is pretty much completely deflecting that attack away, so completely avoiding all that incoming damage and throwing that enemy on its back. It's the type of high risk, high reward skill that makes combat so exhilarating because you have to use it at the correct moment. There's also a version of that during which our weapon seems to charge up some kind of light energy attack, but this has a perfect dodge baked into it. We can see it later in the video as well in greater effect against one of the bosses. This pretty much auto dodges a sword that otherwise completely passes through our body, but because it seems that this has the auto dodge baked into it, it completely avoids all the damage while still unleashing our own damage against the target. If this remains the same when the game comes out, which we don't know the current release yet for, I'm going to probably abuse the heck out of this. Now, when it comes to HUD and UI, it seems to be very close to that of Wukong, but with a slight change in the theme. Specifically, that yellow meter over on the bottom right corner of the screen seems to be our focus bar once again. This is the main, resource that we get to use to cast special abilities and effects, and we get to charge it up by performing light attacks just like in Wukong, at least from the gameplay I'm seeing. So as we perform light attacks, that gets to fill up, and then we can unleash very strong attacks that typically consume different amounts of focus. We can see here that besides the main focus bar, this also features 3 other focus bars indicated by the lines over there. So in the previous game, there used to be abilities that would increasingly get stronger the more focus bars or points that ability would consume. So I'm imagining it's going to be the same situation in Zhong Kui as well. On to the left side, we can see very familiar bars as well. The top one with the gray color is our HP bar, of course. Below it is the mana bar for various spells that we get to use. So spells are making a comeback as well. And then finally at the bottom, the stamina bar with a yellow icon. This is going to get consumed when performing parries and regular dodges, but once again, does not get consumed when performing perfect dodges, just like in the previous game. So again, rewarding high skill plays over here. And why not the gourd next to the HP bar, which is obviously for healing. This in Wukong used to be upgradable. Even more interesting though is the ability bar right next to our focus bar. So it seems that this version features 4 different effects that we can summon. Only 3 of the abilities were shown from the looks of it. First one, which of course was that fire imbuement effect. Second, which is the lightning imbuement. And there was also the 4th one being shown, which is basically the summon. And if you remember from Wukong, we used to be able to transform in other demons that we defeated in combat, momentarily using some of their abilities to our advantage. Well, it seems that comes back in Zhong Kui, but with a major difference. So now we can seemingly summon demons to aid us in combat, to fight at our side, so separate from our body, but we also have the option to eventually inhabit them and basically fully control them for a pretty long time from the looks of it. Both of that demon's HP bar and our character's HP bar seem to be completely different, as we can see from when the character transfers back to its own body. So this makes me believe that this is going to be one of the major features of Zhong Kui, since he's technically a ghost buster of the Tang dynasty, pretty much a god that can go to hell and heaven and basically, well, just destroys demons. I guess that we also have the ability to somehow subdue them or transform into them at our own will, which definitely sounds like a very interesting proposition, a little bit of an upgrade compared to the transformations that Wukong used to have in the previous game. Of course, we can't talk about combat without also addressing weapon imbuements, of which we've seen 2 in the gameplay demo, 1 fire and 1 electricity, but unlike Wukong, they seem to be on a much bigger scale than ever before. So for example, check out this really awesome scene right here where we can set up, pretty much fire to a whole forest of enemies. Virtually everybody and all the nearby trees are set ablaze, but then check this out, our characters can actually draw in all of that fire, take down those targets in an instant to empower the sword with fire damage, at least momentarily. And here's one of those high cost, high damage abilities I was talking about. As the weapon is completely engulfed in fire, the character is spending all of its focus, pretty much the whole bar and the 3 extra points, to unleash a wide sweep of fire damage that completely obliterates all the targets and sets the larger one on fire, disabling it momentarily. Fire imbued attacks would also be completely uninterruptible by enemies. They would completely bypass their defenses and blocks, so it seems it's exactly the same case in here too, drastically improving our DPS. The other one was electricity damage, and unlike fire, this seems to stack extra electricity damage on the target over time, which eventually erupts with enough stacks in a lightning strike against it, which seems to deal very high damage from the looks of it, completely knocks it down on its back, or well, on its front or belly this time around, but absolutely devastating. And I'm liking when I'm seeing this kind of mechanic where different elements perform completely different in combat depending what you want from them. By the way, also interesting to note that the electricity damage from the sword we applied previously with our main character actually got transferred to the summon itself once we transferred the body to it. In terms of boss fights, a very interesting detail is that we can break parts of their bodies and possibly disable some of their actions as well. For example, these shell looking kind of like, well, wings on this boss, we can see that we can completely break parts of them very realistically. So eventually the boss even takes them out completely, but I do wonder if this disables anything in terms of attacks. It definitely seems that it throws the boss off balance quite a little bit. Bosses also seem to feature multiple phases. This one seems to enter a rage mode, ripping out its remaining wing before starting to flail even more with more uncontrollable attacks, pretty much unleashing a whole barrage of abilities against the target. Now the question is this going to be anything similar to Wukong in terms of exploration and the world itself? And it seems that we don't really know currently if it's going to be open world or if it's going to continue to be more linear but with open spaces. And from the looks of it, some of these environments look way more open even compared to Wukong, but still feature some moments of linearity. Also, on a similar note, it seems that now we can actually go over obstacles. I don't think we had parkour in the previous game. We just had double jumps and whatnot. So it seems that this is now going to be a thing. And there's a very strong chance we're going to have a mount companion. The same tiger we've seen in the reveal trailer now seems to be fully mountable and usable in one of the last scenes of the trailer shots right here. So hopefully that's going to mean a more open world, but time will tell, as we don't have official confirmation on that. However, what we do have official confirmation of is that this is going to continue to be a single-player ARPG, because according to the game's FAQ section, it's going to follow the same business model as before. So one-time, pay-only, no microtransactions, single-player ARPG, and that is it. It is planned to launch on PC as well as all major gaming platforms. However, not even developers or the head of studio knows the launch date as of yet. Yeah, the development pretty much only started last year in 2025, so chances are this is a couple of years out. This is only an early level stage that they put out, and it seems that every 20th of August each year they put something out like this. So expect a lot more news 20th of August of every year until it eventually comes out. But in terms of DLCs, the question is, what about Wukong? Obviously, that had a massive success, and there was some news at some point that the developers did begin work on a DLC. Well, from the looks of it, it seems that they pretty much abandoned that prospect. They felt a lot more excited about the idea of starting a different story, a different hero in a different setting, and they seem to be much more passionate about it than going over a DLC. And to be honest, I personally prefer this route. If they are as excited for this as they were for Wukong, I think that's going to translate to a much better product at the end of it. So passionate developers means happy gamers. And by all means, the game, even in its current state, this is, by the way, all in-game filmed, looks absolutely stellar. I mean, some of those facial animations are absolutely unreal. Water looks just spectacular. This is probably the most realistic water I've seen in a video game, but of course, hopefully nothing will get downgraded by the time the game comes out. If you remember Wukong, I think that it actually ended up looking better than some of its initial previews because of how much it advanced over the years since its initial preview. Obviously, I don't think this is going to take quite as long to come out compared to Wukong, but I would still not expect it anytime soon. There were a few other details that we've seen in the trailer. For example, it seems that there are other types of mounts as well. Like, for example, the half of a giant that we see over here, for some reason, is completely mountable. Musical minigame is also in there. Our character is able to play some musical instruments and is even accompanied by its own group of, well, skeletons or undead playing other types of instruments, which is really funny. Creature taming and even creature fishing have been hinted. At the very least, creature fishing seems to be in there from one of these cutscenes. But at one point, we can see that, yeah, there's some kind of effect being used on a creature to completely capture it. Again, using one of those charms against it to completely engulf it, and then it absolutely gets absorbed in the character's palm somehow. Maybe it becomes important later down the line, or maybe it's another type of mount. Also, speaking of charms, there are a couple of abilities also hinted over here. One being placed on some enemy's face, which transforms it into some kind of, I don't know, very strange tentacle-looking creature. Let me in the comments know what significance it has. And on top of that, we've also had at least one extra effect on the weapon, which is this kind of like magical purple flame that seems to absorb some kind of energy from one of the enemies. It's also possible that we may have a camp and maybe even a cooking system. It's not completely certain yet because somebody for some reason is taking a bath in that cooking oil, but at the very least camping does seem to be part of it. Plus, much more. Obviously, there are many other hints in there that are obviously part of the Chinese folklore. So if there's anything that went over my head, do let me know in the comments. I would definitely love to know. That about concludes today's video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.